You know that feeling when you make a mistake and you just can't let it go? It just replays in your head over and over again. Well, that's your inner critic. And today, we're going to put that voice right under the microscope. We're going to dive into the science of self-blame to figure out why it gets so loud and, what's actually happening inside our brains when it takes over.
So let's just jump right in with the big question, right? Why are we so often our own worst critics? I mean, it's something pretty much all of us go through. And the reasons why? Well, they're this really fascinating mix of our psychology, our biology, and even the way we're wired by society.
Okay, so first things first, let's get on the same page. What are we even talking about when we say self-blame? Basically, it's this tendency to take all the responsibility for when things go wrong, and a lot of the time, it's way over the top, or just not accurate at all. Think about it like this. There's a huge difference between seeing a mistake as a chance to learn and seeing it as proof that there's something wrong with you. And this right here really shows you the two sides of that coin. On one hand, you've got what we call adaptive self-reflection. It's totally constructive. It's the voice that says, okay, I missed the deadline. Next time, I'm going to plan better. See? That's learning. But then you've got its evil twin, maladaptive self-blame. This is just destructive. It's the voice that screams, the whole project failed because I'm completely worthless. That's not about learning at all. That's a full-on attack on who you are as a person. All right, so here's where it gets really interesting. Self-blame isn't just this one single thing. It actually comes in two totally different flavors. And once you understand the difference between them, it becomes super clear why one is so much more damaging than the other. So let's break these two down. First up, we have behavioral self-blame. This is all about your actions. It's the thought, I did something bad. And you know what? This can actually be useful. It can push you to do better next time. But then there's characterological self-blame. And this one is sneaky. It's not about what you did, it's about who you are. It's the feeling of, I am bad. And that is the one that's so deeply connected to things like depression and feeling completely stuck. So the big question is, why? Why do our brains even go there? Well, let's pop the hood and get into the actual neuroscience of that inner critic. We're going to see what's really firing off in there when we get stuck in those negative loops.
Now, it's going to sound a little weird, but self-blame can actually be a weird kind of coping mechanism. It all comes down to something called the illusion of control. See, by blaming ourselves, our brain kind of tricks us into feeling like we have some power in a situation that feels totally chaotic. The thinking goes, hey, if it was my fault, then maybe I can do something to stop it from happening again.
Okay, let's talk about the actual brain hardware involved. First up, meet the prefrontal cortex, or the PFC for short. I want you to think of this as your brain's CEO. It's supposed to be in charge of high-level stuff like planning and reflection. But when it goes into overdrive, that's when it becomes the part of your brain that just obsesses and chews on every single little mistake. Next in our cast of characters is the amygdala. This is your brain's smoke detector. It's threat detector. Now here's the problem. The amygdala isn't very sophisticated. It can't really tell the difference between a genuine life-threatening danger, like, say, a tiger, and a social threat, like sending an email with a typo. It just pulls the fire alarm for both, flooding your system with anxiety. And this part is just wild. Meet the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC. This is your brain's emotional pain center. And it's the reason why self-blame literally hurts. I'm not kidding. That deep gut punch feeling you get from shame or guilt, that is your ACC lighting up, telling your brain that the attack from your inner critic is real, physical level pain. So let's put all the pieces together and see how this creates that awful, vicious loop. It all kicks off with one negative thought. Step 1, your PFC, that overthinking CEO, grabs onto it and won't let go. Step 2, the amygdala sees this thought and screams threat, sounding all the alarms. Step 3, the ACC chimes in, registering this as real emotional pain. And here's the kicker, step 4, that feeling of pain just reinforces the original negative thought, telling your brain, see, it must be true. And round we go. Okay, so this whole loop is spinning in our heads. But what's the big deal? Why does this actually matter? Well, this is way more than just a bad mental habit. The cost of being stuck in this cycle is massive. It hits our minds, it hits our bodies, and it really can affect our entire lives. And here is the absolute key to understanding the damage. Your brain does not know the difference. It treats that harsh self-criticism as a real deal threat. So it activates your body's full-blown stress response, we're talking the HPA axis, and floods you with stress hormones like cortisol. This is not all in your head.
It is a full-body physiological. And that constant stress response creates this huge cascade of problems, like a domino effect. On the mental health side, it's directly linked to things like depression, anxiety, and even PTSD. Behaviorally, it can turn you into a perfectionist who's terrified of making a mistake, or make you avoid challenges altogether. It can really mess with your relationships, leading to trust issues, and of course, it just hammers your physical health with all that chronic stress. And this really drives home that brain-body connection, doesn't it? I mean, that constant voice in your head isn't just some abstract thought floating around. It shows up physically. You know that tightness in your chest, that tension you carry in your shoulders, that awful pit in your stomach? That is your body literally keeping score. Okay, I know that was all pretty heavy, but here comes the good part, I promise. The really good news is we are not just stuck with this. This isn't permanent programming. So let's shift gears completely and talk about how we can actually break free from this cycle and, believe it or not, rewrite the script. And the reason we can do this comes down to one incredible word: neuroplasticity. It's just a fancy way of saying that your brain is adaptable. It can change. Those super highways of negative thought that create the self-blame loop, they're not permanent. They're more like dirt roads that you can reroute. With practice, you can literally build new roads. You can rewire your brain. So how do we actually do it? Well, here's your toolkit for making it happen. It really comes down to 3 super powerful, well-researched strategies. Number 1, challenge the thought. We borrow this from things like cognitive behavioral therapy. Number 2, observe without judgment. This is the core of mindfulness. And number 3, and this one is huge, practice self-kindness, which we call self-compassion. Let's zoom in on that last one, self-compassion, because it is the direct antidote to that harsh inner critic. Now, this isn't about letting yourself off the hook or making excuses. It's simply about treating yourself with the same kindness you'd give to a good friend. So instead of, oh, I'm so stupid for messing that up, a self-compassionate thought might sound more like, wow, that was a really tough situation, and I did the best I could. Okay, what can I learn from this for next time? See the difference? It's acknowledging the struggle without drowning it. And really, this is what it all boils down to. The goal here is not to become irresponsible or to stop caring. Not at all. The goal is to make a shift away from that destructive, completely over-the-top self-blame and toward a healthy, balanced, and yes, kind way of looking at ourselves. One that actually helps us grow instead of just paralyzing us with shame. So I want to leave you with this one final thought. Now that you understand the science and you have the tools, you genuinely have the power to transform that voice inside your head. So just think about this. What if your harshest inner critic could actually become your most powerful inner coach?